Awesome, everyone. Welcome to Stop Over Promising. And Diane Howard's our speaker today. And Diane runs Lantern Home Group. And some of the things that they're doing is truly just going out and making sure that their clients are really taken care of. And they're making sure to set expectations along the way from this is what your home is worth to this is what we're going to do to get it sold. And so, Diane, thank you for joining us and giving some of your time back today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Charles.
Awesome. Well, hey, you run the Lantern Home Group, and it's a team of seven, including yourself. What does that dynamic of a team look like?
Well, I'm exhausted 24/7. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. So we have newer agents, seasoned
Hmm.
agents, and everybody contributes equally. What you'll notice is that we don't have an admin yet. That
Hmm.
is kind of our next goal, but so we all have to pitch in and do those tasks that an admin would typically do. Um,
Hmm.
and it works. I mean, we
Yeah.
have a core foundation of beliefs of how our team is to be run, and we're all committed to them. And everybody really does. They stick to it, which I'm proud
Yeah.
of. Mhm.
Absolutely. And I know you've been building this thing over the last couple years. What made you want to, not be an individual agent and actually be a rainmaker and to lead real estate agents in the industry?
And that's a great question. So I started off as an individual agent, and my former career in television, I built sales teams over and over again for
Mhm.
20 years. So I've always been very much team oriented. It's my personal belief that the collective group can get so much more done than one person's efforts can do. I also love the camaraderie of a team. We
Mhm.
laugh a lot, we cry a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I joined a team early on, a different team,
Hmm.
and I think I always knew in the back of my mind, because that was sort of my background building teams,
Hmm.
that I would do this again.
Yeah.
That's very
Absolutely.
much it. Hmm.
Awesome. Well, as we're jumping in and thinking about the business side of things, I know that you guys, with your group, you work with obviously past clients and referrals, as well as you do online lead generation, which we all know is hugely important, especially in the shifting market. So, as we're kind of setting the table, what does that look like? Are you doing anything different when it comes to going to the listing appointment with a past client or referral versus when you're setting up the listing appointment for an online lead when you're actually in the home?
Yes and no. I think that's an interesting question to see if there's a
Hmm.
distinction. So yes, I mean, as you know, with online leads, they're a little less predictable. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way. So
Hmm. Yeah.
so even if you've set an appointment with an online lead, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to keep that appointment. So with an online lead, it's about the number of touches. So constantly confirming the appointment, coming from contribution to just
Hmm.
get in front of that online lead. Once you're in front of them, then I feel that the presentation becomes
Hmm.
similar to a past client referral. It's easy to think that um, if you're getting a warm referral, that it's kind of a lock. But I think, as we're seeing today, that's not the case, right? It's This
Right.
market has shifted. People are sitting on the sidelines more.
Hmm.
They're unsure of which direction to move in. So I think now those two situations are coming a little closer together in terms of how you have to handle um,
Yeah.
each type of lead. And really, the term kid gloves comes to mind. Uh,
Hmm.
and I just think that, we have to not take anything for granted at this point, and really pull out all stops. So
Yeah.
if that answered
Absolutely.
what, I
Yeah,
don't know if that was
absolutely.
the question you were asking, but
No, I think that that's absolutely, huge to think about, especially in the shifting market, and that it's all about finding the motivated. And especially right now when we start thinking about where interest rates are, like at the time of recording, what are we? We're hovering around like 7%, somewhere in there. And for someone to actually walk away from a 2% interest rate, like there's got to be something going on in their world to motivate them to do that. So,
that's
as you're kind of doing some online lead gen now versus what you guys were doing, 3, 6, 9 months ago, are you finding that you're actually having to do more touches to some of those online leads to get to the table, or is it just slowing down? Like, what does that look like in your world?
it's honestly the message is changing. So before,
Hmm.
I think you saw that we were doing a lot of luxury lead generation.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
reaching out to that segment of the population. And now what we're doing is we're shifting to um, kind of an education model. What does your home's value look like in this environment?
Yeah.
And then talking about strategies to these people. So it's still coming from contribution. It's just answering what might be what we estimate to be on their minds.
Yes. Awesome. Super appreciate that. So I know that we've actually had you in for classes teaching around the CMA and what the home's worth. And even if I were to go on your website right now, I believe that there is a lead capture for home value. So tell us about this. Like, if I'm going through, what are your thoughts about giving the home value to someone, especially in this market? Like, how are you basing dollars, and how are you setting realistic expectation of list price versus sell price right now?
Yeah, and that's also a great question, especially now. So, price has always been important, and
Hmm.
so we've always treated the CMA as part of as a very core piece of our presentation,
Hmm.
and even more so now. So the lead capture that we have, what is your home worth? It it goes to a quick CMA in the program Cloud CMA. And
Hmm.
if you've not seen it, it's an algorithm. It's just kind of throwing in what's in the neighborhood, but not doing any adjustments. So it's not really a great indicator of value. So
Hmm.
we get notified when somebody clicks on that. And so that tells us they're interested in knowing the value of the home. So we immediately follow up and we say, basically what I just said to you. It's based on an algorithm,
Hmm.
allowing you to do adjustments and show you what your home is really worth.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we have to. It's again, it's follow up. We're just using that as a tool to see who's
Hmm.
raising their hand, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when we're kind of thinking about this, and this is what the that company that rhymes with pillow does really really well, right? With getting people excited about what their home value is, even with all of us knowing, like most consumers understand that it's not 100% accurate because there's other factors, and it's still an exciting number because then I can compare it to what my neighbors did, or at least compare it to what I bought it for. How are you using this to actually get in front? Because I've seen like HomeBot, right? Like I know that's another product that's out there that people use the HomeBot and the conversation start. And I do know that you're using Cloud CMA. Are you seeing that you're actually getting into more conversations using a product where the consumer can actually go in and play with some things and ask for information from you?
We're seeing more engagement. Yes. So
Hmm.
again, it's incumbent upon us to circle back to them. They don't necessarily reach out and say, "Hey, can you explain this crazy market to me?" But we
Hmm.
follow up with that conversation and say, things have changed. We'd love to provide you with a current market analysis, and people
Yeah.
appreciate that, right? So
Yeah.
because they know, I think they're starting to know that that what their neighbor sold for in March, probably that ship has sailed, right? But they
Yeah.
don't know in the current environment what their home is actually worth because of conflicting
Right.
information, right? You
Yeah.
hear national data, you hear local data, and sometimes that is conflicting.
Hmm.
Or you hear, or they'll see, a lot of properties dropping in price, and they think, okay, the sky is falling, and it may not be
Yeah.
as bad as what's in their mind. So education, 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 and I think that people right now are really appreciating that.
Hmm. Absolutely. So what we do know is, right, first-time home buyers become first-time home sellers, which become first-time home investors. Are you using the CMA as an extra item of value with past clients as well? Are you doing, because I know that a lot of what we're talking about is getting in touch with your current sellers with hands raised, but are you using the CMA to spark some conversations with past clients?
Yes, and what I found that was interesting is this year that a lot of the, I'll just call them savvy sellers, they front loaded and sold prior to May. They knew that interest rates were in fact going to rise, and so
Hmm.
the front of our year was very heavy on sellers, and then and buyers. And so what happened
Hmm.
was some of those buyers were like, oh, did I buy at the wrong time? So we're using it as your value is still good. You still have equity in your home. You'll continue to build equity. So yes, I mean, the short answer is yes, it can, the tool is incredible. I mean, you can calm people's nerves. You can explain the market with it. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do with the CMA.
Awesome. Awesome. I know that your team is big on staging, and there's even a mofo that you have on your website where it goes out and it's like, get your free staging checklist, which gets some hands raised. How do you deliver this value proposition when you're at the dining room table that this is something that your team does and something that your team does very well, and that's why they should list with you? Like, how do you go through the importance of staging?
Great question. So we, I think, so even in the market where homes were literally selling with a sign in the yard and not much effort beyond that, we still staged
Yeah.
our homes because we feel that staging, it's so important for the consumer. People are, they're very visual. They're looking online first, and staging helps to show the best use of the space. So a
Yeah.
vacant home always looks smaller than a staged home, and it seems counterintuitive, but people just don't have good spatial reasoning, and
Right.
so we feel that it helps with that, and it just shows the home in its best light. I mean, there's no doubt, and NAR has some statistics too that shows that stage homes sell for more money and quicker than an unstaged home, right? And
Yeah.
so yes, we do it to the nth degree. We have a staging warehouse filled with a lot of staging items. And we will stage vacant homes to homes that are near perfect, just do
Yeah.
some tweaks on them or whatever. But so we do talk about the importance of it and the value
Mhm.
that it brings. And that's part of our professional fee. So I mean, it's a win-win, definitely.
Absolutely. So you touched on this about sometimes doing some tweaks to a home, and so for the agents out there that's like, you know what, I don't have a warehouse, I don't have the ability to go out and purchase all this stuff. You said it's a tweak. What does that look like? You actually take their stuff and kind of move it around, or what does that process look like?
We do. We do. I mean, homeowners, sometimes they have a lot of really great items. They just don't know how to put them together, right? And
Yeah.
so yes, you can do staging on a dime, if you will. And some really easy, cheap things to do is, go to a secondhand store and buy some of the greenery, right? Because greenery
Mhm.
goes a long way. Um, we like a more simplistic approach. You don't need to overstage, right? Use their sofa. In this picture that you're seeing here, that sofa was the client's, that wasn't our sofa. He had a turquoise print, which you can't see in this picture, that's in the dining room adjacent. So when you walk in the door, you can see that was kind of the color scheme, which is why we brought in the turquoise. So if you get permission first, obviously, to go rummaging through their house and find items, it's more about doing the tweaks versus bringing in your own stuff. You'd be shocked what people have. And again, they just don't know how to kind of make it look inviting.
Absolutely. Stephanie, I see your hand up. What do you have for Diane?
Great, thanks. Diane, you just mentioned that was part of your professional fee. Is that included in the 3.2%?
It is.
Or do you charge anything extra?
We do not.
Have you run into any situations, I'm renting the furniture for now because I don't have space to store it. And it's a month rental and then it gets more expensive. Would you consider tacking on if the home stayed on the market for more than a month, or would you say just to eat the cost, or would you say just unstage it at that point?
We just had that conversation, Stephanie, as a team. So yes, we are having to rethink it. We're fortunate enough to have a lot of items that we could stage. I mean, I don't know, we probably have had between 5 and 7 homes staged at a time. So we're fortunate in that way. And sometimes we'll kind of rob from Peter to pay Paul, right? We'll take something out of one and put it in another. If you're renting though, I mean, I understand why they're charging per month. We really do try to keep our home staged through the appraisal, because you sell that home 3 times, right? To the buyer, to the inspector, to the appraiser.
Yeah.
And so it's really important for us to have that staged through the appraisal. And you're absolutely right. We are having the conversation around, maybe we do, if it's past, 45 days, maybe we do need to either tack on a fee or come up with another solution. So TBD on that one in terms of what we
let me know, because I haven't been in this situation yet, but I know it's coming and I'd love to be prepared.
Exactly. Yes. And so yes, that's top of our list of we better figure this out. Yeah.
Awesome. So Diane, when you actually go into a home that actually has enough furniture and that stuff, and it's just not stage worthy or photography worthy, and you're at the dining room table having the conversation around how your team stages houses, are you having to present that a little bit differently so they don't think that they're just getting a whole new slab of furniture and that you're actually going to be using theirs? Like, is there a different conversation that needs to be happened at that time?
And it's sort of the same conversation, because some people have, as I said, amazing pieces, amazing furniture. So it's kind of a both and, right? We explain that we stage. Usually what we find is people have too much stuff in their home versus not enough, right? And so that conversation is about paring down so that we can show off the bones of the house. And so we do let them know simultaneous that we'll use as much of their pieces as possible. And we also say, if that works for you, because sometimes if they want to just pre-pack everything and move on, we do have the luxury of saying, go ahead and pre-pack and we'll bring everything in. So we try to work with whatever the scenario is of the seller and do what is best for them. It's a lot of work up front for the seller, and at the end, in fact, this picture that we're looking at, that was a recent sale, and he's like, I am so glad you had us pre-pack. So you want to make it a positive thing for them. Go ahead and get ahead of the curve and go ahead and pre-pack some of these items. And if something, it is a delicate conversation, as we know, because if something you feel might be hideous, the seller may absolutely love. So Elizabeth has like this great way of sugarcoating that by saying, I know that's really valuable to you and important. So I would hate for something to happen to that. So I'm going to have you go ahead and pre-pack that.
That's
So
classic.
it is. It's perfect. I mean, it is absolutely perfect. So we steal that and use that often as well.
That's awesome. So my two things that I just heard was turn it into a positive, right? Like we have staging, stage home, sell quicker, and we know you're going through a stressful time. So let's start pre-packing and we will stage your home for you because stage home, sell for more. And the second thing is we need to go out and get a velvet hammer like Elizabeth to deliver blows to people staging. So perfect.
Right. Yes, there's a way to say it where it's not offensive. There's also a way to say it where it's incredibly offensive, right?
Absolutely.
Don't use the phrase "bless your heart."
Bless your heart. That's right. And you probably won't hear those words come from my mouth.
Right.
I'm a Yankee.
Right.
You were.
So open houses, and we're looking at one that was a couple of years back, where it looks like you have some guidelines and some rules, but I know that this is a focus for your team. How do we set the stage for an open house? Like, are we door knocking? We're circle prospecting. Like, how do we get the maximum amount of traffic and make this the most valuable use of our time doing an open house?
Yes. I highly recommend doing open houses. We have secured amazing leads. I know Linda did an open house. An investor walked in, and you've done how many transactions with them?
I'm on the fourth one.
Fourth one. And that was just a few months ago that she met him, and she's on the fourth transaction with him. So open houses are incredible, lead gen opportunities. And you mentioned door knocking and circle prospecting. We are that team that goes out and does that, and we firmly believe in it. So we go out first, we make an invitation to the open house, we invite all of the neighbors, and we do a minimum of 100 door knocks to invite people. And I'll talk about that strategy in a minute, but then what we'll do, if we host the open house and we try to make it, festive for people. So we'll have, drinks, not non-alcoholic, depends on the situation. If we do a neighbor open house only, we will have like wine and cheese, things like that. But we'll do, snacks and waters. We'll have 2 to 3 people in the open house. And we want it to be a party atmosphere. We want those neighbors to come in. The nosy neighbors, they're our favorite, because a buyer can't distinguish between a neighbor and another buyer. So it creates that competition. It also puts the house in a different light for that buyer, right? They're like, oh, this one is desirable, right? Because there are people in the house. And then with circle prospecting, after we've door knocked for the open house, we'll say during that time when we have the conversations, we'll come back. If you're not able to attend, we'll come back and let you know how we did, right? And so then we go back around, because we just asked permission to come back, right? And so we'll go around and we'll say, hey, we just got under contract, wanted to let you know we had, that the activity was good, and they got their number or whatever it is, right? Because neighbors who come to open houses are really just sellers, right? They're not really giving up their Saturday to come hang out with us. They're curious, and they're curious for a reason. And then we go back again with a just sold. And so we maximize everything around our open houses. We talk when people come in, Linda will tackle them before she ever lets them leave an open house. So
yes.
Getting their
I think that's huge though, right? I think that a lot of agents get into this business. They get told that open houses are important, and they're like, awesome, I'll go do an open house. And then they don't turn it into what it sounds like Linda has turned it into. It's like, I am putting hours into this Saturday, and I am going to ensure that I'm making it worth my time. So that's awesome to hear that Linda's like, I'm not letting anyone leave without their info to follow up with them.
That's right. That's right. And it is a marketing opportunity. You see all this stuff here. It's Lantern Home Group. We have a baker that makes Lantern Home Group, logos on cookies. And we really do take this opportunity to make it a marketing experience. We put a ton of signs out, flags with our logos. We really try to utilize it to the max, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you were talking about the 100 doors, and you said you'd circle back to that. What does that kind of look like for your team?
Oh, yes. And so in door knocking, that's what I started to say it, that those neighbors are so critical, because we all know that if one house is selling in a neighborhood, chances are, 2 or 3 others are going to also be selling. It's a weird phenomenon. I don't know why it happens, but it happens. So that uncovers those people, and it shows them that we work harder for our clients. And I can't tell you that, a lot of people door knock, and still the response is, wow, you really inviting us? Wow, that's amazing. People are surprised that we go to that level of effort.
Awesome. So what I think I heard is we secure the listing, and then we prepare for our open house. We go door knock, invite the neighbors, and then we just let them know that, hey, we understand if you can't make it, short notice, we'll come back and let you know how the neighbor did. You host the open house, and then you go back out into the neighborhood. Are you sending any digital assets out, or any print collateral out as well, just to not only take mind share in the beginning with the open houses, but to also go through and be like, hey, your neighbor just did this, call us?
We don't do mail outs, just because of budget reasons, but we do Facebook ads. We do paid ads to let people know about the open house, because we try to obviously capture as many people as possible, so that again, maximizing the one sale into hopefully many other sales. So we do use digital ads, but mainly it is, we have these pre-printed materials, and we would rather go and knock on the door and have a face-to-face conversation if we can. I think it's more
Absolutely.
effective and more effective.
Yeah. Well, especially when we start thinking about the market that we're going into, and that we do need to be budget conscious. And we also know that being prospecting based, which your team is, it's getting out in front of people and having conversations face to face, is going to be the highest ROI versus marketing. So I think that's awesome that you guys are ensuring that you're just like, listen, people know us, they like us, they trust us, and we're going to do better if we get in front of them. So let's just go hit the streets. Absolutely. True. So as we're kind of going through and presenting the offer to the clients, right? What are some of the main things that we're doing if we're getting multiple offers, or we only get one offer, right? Like, what are we doing to have those conversations to our client at that point?
So we will have set the expectation, a realistic expectation of what this current market is generating in terms of offers. So we are talking about multiple offers only in the sense that when priced correctly, your home still could generate multiple offers. It just happened with one of my listings recently, while the interest rates were this high. And so, but we say that's, not the norm. And, while that's always our goal, I don't want that to be their expectation. Right. And so, so in presenting one offer, it's now very different, right? Whereas before we were negotiating and having something to negotiate with, versus the one offer. Now it's kind of, you're switching to, is that, what the seller is wanting to take? What is the motivation of that seller, right? Because maybe it's, I just need to get out of here quick because I'm starting a job in another city or whatever, or whatever the many factors that people move for.
Yeah.
So we try to hone in on what's the pain point, right?
Mhm.
And what's the pleasure point. And so,
Absolutely.
if it's one offer, then it becomes a negotiation, right? Between those points versus between offers, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, and right now we'll experience the investor. I think everybody's probably seen them where they'll write 100 offers a day, throw it out, lowball everybody and see what sticks. You have to be able to ferret out, what's a real offer and what's a throwing spaghetti against the wall offer, right?
Yes.
And so, but if it is a real offer and it's a viable offer, then it just becomes a conversation with your seller.
Absolutely. And so I know that this market looks a little bit different. And when we were getting into kind of some of these multiple offer situations, or even just, I mean, I think that we think of multiple offers as 10, 15, 20, but even if there's just 2 offers on the table, how are you actually presenting that? Is it on an Excel spreadsheet, or you have the 2 contracts and you are highlighting this feature versus this feature? Like, how do you go about that with your client?
We do have a multiple offer spreadsheet. So, and then I would highlight what are the, best aspects of each offer on the spreadsheet, which was really helpful when there were, 10 to 15 offers and the client was, trying to make heads or tails of it. Also, we never send over the offer to the client just because if they sign it accidentally, they could be signing the lowest offer or whatever.
Yes.
So we do the multiple offer spreadsheet, and then we sit down and go over the highlights of each offer. And then when they say, well, this it's between these 2, then I'll send over the PDF version and go through them with them, and then let them choose. So our role is to guide them, not choose for them. So
Absolutely. And with the presenting of the offers, are you going to the house and presenting the offers? Like I said, another appointment? Is this over the phone? How do you do the presenting of the offers with your client? Like, what have you found to be the best strategy?
And honestly, depends on the client.
Okay.
An older client, absolutely go to the home, print them out, right? Paper, go over it and in person. Some people who are really busy executives, no, they're a little more savvy, hit me with the highlights, pick this offer. So it really depends. We're very much client centric. So whatever that client needs is how we'll present.
Perfect. So when we think about kind of leveraging the listing, I think that you kind of touched on a little bit of social media, Linda tackling people before they hit the door. What are you expecting to get out of the listing except for a buyer, right? For the listing, like, what are your goals when you put your sign in the yard? What are your expectations for your team to make sure you guys get the most of it?
Yeah, that's it, right? We are expecting multiples off of one listing is never the goal. It's a client for life, referrals from that client because we've hopefully exceeded their expectations, neighbors coming in and seeing how hard we work and wanting that too, and so then therefore getting other listings off of that, buyers who walk in the door, securing them as buyers and clients. So always it's, the X factor of the one, and also, honestly, it's the client for life that we're
absolutely. Yeah. And so when you're talking about this client for life kind of piece for after the sale, what are some of the ways that you were just taking massive mind share to stay in these people's lives after you help them with the largest financial, decision process that they have made?
So, and we do several things, and I will say that other people do this better than us, and this is a huge focus for us for next year. So understand as anyone who solo business or team business, it's always about bettering yourself, asking, what went well, what didn't go well. We have a postmortem on all of our transactions with the team, and we say, look, this could have gone better, or we'll just, even if something went really, really well, we'll say, what else could we do? What else?
Yeah.
We never just are satisfied with good enough, which I encourage everybody to question, you know, what else could we have done that would have made this a better experience? And so staying in touch with them, obviously the 36 touch, that's our big focus for 2023. We're doing it, but we're doing it a little more manually, if you will. So we will reach out to investor clients and tell them about if something's coming up that might be pertinent, you know, birthday wishes, holiday wishes, events. We do client events. And I don't, what else do we do, guys? Handwritten notes, absolutely. November, partake in that. Handwritten notes go a long way. Phone calls, text messages, emails. I mean, it is basically the 36 touch, but we're doing it manually, and we're going to automate that next year so that we're not sweating, you know?
That's huge as well too, because I think that we all know exactly what we need to do, and you guys do it really, really well. Like, you guys do stay in touch, and what do our worlds look like? If we do get more purposeful about, like, awesome, this month I got to do X, Y, Z, like, life gets just so much simpler. So I like that that's, you know, your focus in 2023 is how do we turn this into a more of a to-do list of the things that we already do, so that we just made sure that it got done.
Yes, exactly.
So when we're kind of going through this, and I know that you just said the you know, the client piece, the after the sale is going to be the focus for 2023. If we were just going to be like, you know what, super appreciate everything that you brought to us today, and we wanted to implement one thing to start in our business, out of all the things that your team does or is planning on doing better in 2023, well, where would you say we should begin? Like, if one of these, like, the biggest return on investment that you can point to, whether you guys have made this an expert thing, that this is a non-negotiable for our team, or this is just the play that we've ran and we see monsters ROI, which one of these should we start looking at?
It has to start with lead generation, right? And it doesn't have to cost money. You don't have to do online ads like we're doing. We didn't at first. We didn't have the money to do it at first. So it was all door knocking and just, you know, kind of brute force, grassroots efforts. So there are ways to do that on the cheap, and the return on that investment is a good one, because it's your time. And in the beginning, when you're starting, we know we have more time than money, so utilize that resource to turn that into money, and then set aside a portion of your budget to start doing online leads. I mean, I think that, you know, everything has to start with lead generation.
Yeah. So start with lead generation, and then lead with revenue, and don't start, you know, pouring in dollars when you don't have any. So
right. And can I just, sorry, the other thing I want to say is, a lot of people, a lot of newer agents will get caught up with, well, but I don't really know everything. That's okay, because at K-Waves, you have such a support group to ask anybody. I mean, Bob Isabel, he's a phenomenal, you know, broker. And so if you go and ask him, he'll stop and he'll help you, right? Margaret's got the coaching program. I mean, don't worry about that stuff. That stuff gets taken care of. Just do the tasks that you're supposed to do to generate business. Everything else falls into place. There's always someone there that's willing to help.
Absolutely. No, super appreciate that. Right. And the support system is big, and super appreciate you saying that. And what if, you know, I'm like, awesome, so I know that, you know, door knocking is going to be big, and I know I'm flying without a parachute here. If I don't have a listing, how do you suggest I go door knocking, right? What are some of the easy things that I could go do to take massive mind share, just hitting the streets without a listing or open house?
Yeah, and right now that actually just got easier for you. So because of the confusion in the market, if you're staying up on what's happening in the market and you can educate your clients on strategies of how to win in a market like this, that's your message, right? How do we have proven strategies to get you top dollar even in a market like this, right? You have it on a flyer, you go door knock. It's just a tool to come from contribution and get it in front of them. Everybody is curious about the real estate market. Everyone is. And if you happen to be someone who loves to do public speaking, host a Zoom meeting and invite everybody to come and listen to a state of the state on the market, right? I mean, I just did a talk at Rotary, and they were all curious about kind of the state of the state and everything. They were confused with the conflicting information. So they allowed me to come in, and then I got a lead off of it 2 weeks later. So everything works, nothing doesn't, right? It's the truth. You just have to put yourself out there and do the tasks that you know will happen. And start now. Don't wait. Don't wait till you're ready, because you're never really ready. And the getting ready to get ready is it's the antithesis of what we should be doing.
Absolutely. So Diane, super appreciate you jumping on the call, right? I think that what your team is doing right now, from getting in front of your sphere of influence and your past clients, to brand new online leads, to setting the table with how you do your CMA, to your staging, to your open houses, and actually taking massive mind share and leveraging is awesome. And I know that there was a lot to learn for us. I super appreciate you breaking your guys' process down and sharing your information with us today.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, Charles.